And Lord Vishnu amongst them, is one of the highest gods amongst the Trinity. And he is the person responsible for preserving this universe. He's the maintainer, the preserver of this universe. So the word avatar actually comes from the Puranas, where it is mentioned that Lord Vishnu primarily applies to Lord Vishnu because he's the one who's responsible for this particular function, So he descends on the planet Earth or in other lokas in a different form, not as Vishnu himself, but he takes a specific form to fulfill a specific purpose which is required for that particular time period. And that is avtarit hona. That is the descent of God onto the mortal realm.
Keeping that in mind, I have to bring you to the brief outlook on Kalki. For someone who's got no idea what Kalki even means, where do you even begin this conversation?
Right. So Kalki is the last and final avatar who's supposed to come descend on this planet. It is Lord Vishnu's avatar. And in the popular list of 10 avatars, this will be the 10th or the last one.
And it's not arrived yet.
It hasn't arrived yet. It is predicted to arrive towards the end of Kali Yuga. Okay. So there's a long time to go. But there are various aspects of Kalki that have been described, such as where he would be born, what would be the name of his parents, who is he going to marry, what are the feats that he's going to perform in his life, the name of his vehicle, a horse, a divine horse, the kind of weapons he'll be using, who he'll be praying to, and who will be the villain in the story.
One of the avatars of Vishnu was Parshuram, who's supposed to be alive till today. Who's a Chiranjeevi, who's gone beyond life and death. Yes. And his whole purpose was violent.
Yes.
Does Kalki have a violent purpose as well?
The whole Kalki is the Parshuram for the modern era, So there is absolutely no denying the fact that Kalki will be a violent person, But it is not senseless or mindless violence. There's a purpose to it. And Kalki's purpose is to rid the world of the asuric forces or the demonic forces or the forces of evil. Parshuram will be the guru of Kalki.
All right. You have any input from other cultures?
So there are, references of similar messiahs coming towards the end of towards the judgment day. The Abrahamic religions, they call it the judgment day, when the world is going to end. And that's when the judgment of all the souls, all the people who have passed away would be done, whether you go into heaven or hell. So towards the end of the world, when the judgment day is about to happen, in Christianity, there is a prediction of a fourth horseman coming, if I'm not mistaken, fourth or the fifth horseman coming. And I think it's fourth. And the horseman is supposed to be very similar to Kalki, in the sense that Kalki is riding a divine horse called Devdat, and Kalki is supposed to rid the entire world of the evil kings. And the horseman is supposed to do exactly the same, where, it's mentioned that the armies of earth would be aligned to face the horseman. But still he would smite them, with a sword and stuff. It's very similar. And again, even in Islam, there's a mention of a Hazrat coming to establish the principles again. There's differences in the opinion, whether he's already appeared, whether he's going to come. But there is a mention of a similar concept. In Buddhism, there's a very strong belief, especially in Vajrayana Buddhism, which is, people would know Tibetan Buddhism, because whenever you go to Manali or McLeodganj, or everybody comes back with the prayer flags, right, on their bikes and on their vehicles. So that Tibetan Buddhism, it's called Vajrayana Buddhism. And in that Buddhism, there is a belief in scriptures called Kal Chakra. And it is believed that these Kal Chakra teachings were actually passed on by Gautam Buddha to the first king of that lineage. And there's about 32 kings in that lineage. And the last one of them would correspond to the Kalki that we know from our scriptures. So multiple religions, multiple beliefs mention the coming back of a Messiah.
What's said about the life of Kalki? According to our scriptures, there is a Kalki Purana.
Yes.
As I've been told by you. So I would love to know, where do you even begin this story?
So Kalki's story comes from various sources. Kalki Puran is a Up-Puran. So, there are major Purans, which are more historical, more authentic. And then there are the Up-Purans that are centered around certain deities. And
You mean like future predictions?
some future, some past, but the Up-Purans are more focused in their approach, whereas the other Purans are more expansive in the coverage. And like Vishnu Puran, Shiv Puran, they are some of the major 18 Purans. And then there are the Upa-Purans that are, again, some count 18, some count more than 18. And Kalki Puran is one of the Upa-Purans. But that is not to say that it is less authentic or less believable, because the prediction of Kalki comes from all the major Purans. Whether it is the Padma Puran, the Matsya Puran, there's, I think in the Shiv Puran also, Bhagavad Puran definitely, Vishnu Puran definitely, they mention the coming of Kalki. And they also sort of give us a background of how things would be, of the Kali age, of how Kali Yuga is going to be. And it's very much in line with what we see around, It's small things like, just a person who has a lot of property would be considered respectful. Right? It's not because of the knowledge he possesses, it's because of the money that he possesses. Kings would tax people so much that they would have to leave their belongings and go and live in forests and caves, So we are coming to that stage slowly that, people are getting fed up of, the life in cities, because of the cost or expenditure which is involved. And when we talk about taxes, we just think of income tax, right? That's not it. The indirect taxes, they take away so much of your income or your, kitty that you have. So there is things like, only consent between a boy and girl would be enough for a marriage, which is what happens, right, today. And it was actually one of the aspects of, one of the ways to get married, Gandharva Vivaha in ancient India. Actually go into the details, it's quite scary that, people would have a life of about 20 to 30 years, puberty would start happening at 11 years. And you see a lot of that thing, happening already. You see school kids getting into a lot of stuff which they shouldn't, or which...
You're describing my life, Dr. Aggarwal.
So we are in Kali Yuga, yes.
Man, sorry, Kalki Devta. Go on.
But still things are not as bad, right? So the Kalki Puran says that Kalki would appear, and even the other Purans mention that he would appear when there is a complete decimation of religion or godliness in the world. It will be only one Varna of people. So Varna is translated in English into caste, but that is not what it means. It means there'll be only disbelievers. There'll be mostly atheists in the world, when God appears. And one purpose of God appearing again is to establish religion or dharma.
Do you feel there's only atheists in the world?
I think there are a lot of them, but I don't think we've reached that stage yet. And that's why Kalki hasn't arrived. And there's a bit of romance, there's a bit of action in Kalki's story. Yes, of course. Which of the avatars? I mean, not all avatars had a counterpart, a spouse, but in Ram's story, the entire abduction and rescue of Sita adds the bit of romance, between the husband and wife. In Krishna's story, of course, there's the gopis earlier, and then, Rukmani and the Ashtabharya, and a lot of people don't know those parts of the story, where Krishna had to go through a lot of struggle to get each of the, princesses to marry. So Kalki's story has a bit of everything, a bit of romance, action, a bit of, larger than life imagery, grand battle, multiple grand battles, quintessential villain, which is Kali. For Kalki's story, there's a romance between him, who will be born in Shambhal, which will probably be in Tibet, based on the Tibetan scriptures. According to Hindu scriptures, the location is not given, but a lot of people believe it will somewhere be probably in Uttar Pradesh, because I think there's a town of that name there. But the Tibetan prophecies believe that the king would be born in Tibet, in Shambhal. And the princess that he's going to marry would be from Sri Lanka. So, there's a cross-country romance, and, how they interact, it's through a parrot. And, so it's an interesting story.
Like Twitter?
Yeah, a talking parrot, probably like Twitter. So, yes. And so the fights with these kings, and they are all described very vividly. And there's two subordinates of Kali that are very interesting. Called Koka and Vikoka, and they're very interesting. They're two demons who can be killed only if they're killed together. Otherwise, they will not die. If you kill one of them, and it's a very interesting fight. So I don't want to reveal everything. I would like people to read the Kalki Puran. It's a short book, and it's interesting. It's an interesting story.
Okay. What do you think that could mean? People who can't die.
I feel it's some sort of a symbiotic being. Where
Quantum particles.
yes, quite possible. Or it could be the entire story of Kali and Kalki could take us into the AI zone, for all you know. They could be automatons or robotic beings, who are connected to each other, and the source is in one. It's like Horcruxes and all that. This one will not die till the other one is also killed. So there could be so many different interpretations to that.
Modern day scholars consider the Vishnu Puran to be a commentary on human evolution. In terms of, if you see the first avatar, it was a fish.
Right.
The second avatar was
Kurma.
a tortoise. Amphibian.
Yeah.
The third one was a boar.
Yes.
And then progressively, you kept getting slightly more evolved avatars. The fourth one after the boar was Narsimha.
Narsimha was half man and half animal.
Yeah.
And then you have the Vaman, which is sort of the primitive man, the pygmy.
The pygmy, yeah.
Yeah.
And
then you move to Parshuram,
which
is the jungle dwelling man, forest dwelling man, because he was not living in the society. He had an axe, right? So the tools, primitive tools were getting developed. Then you move to civilization with Ram and Krishna.
Keeping in mind Shri Ram, who was all about ethics, keeping in mind Krishna, who was all about dharma, which is doing the right thing, even if it means doing a few wrong things.
Yes.
Keeping in mind the Buddha, who reminds us to meditate and to spiritually evolve. This is the final message of God, which is proactiveness.
Yes.
That wherever you can, you get the job done.
Yes.
If you see something wrong happening in the world, go address it.
Definitely.
If you see the opportunity for good to be done, you go do it.
Right. The belief in Messiah is great. We want to believe that somebody will come to save us. But I feel, it is imperative that we start living a life where we do not need to be saved. As a society, as a culture, I'm not talking about Indians, or I'm talking about the world, the globe. Everywhere we should be working towards achieving that Kalki within ourselves, where we can take care of things. We do not need an external savior to come and set things right for us. Why can't we do it?
That's
taking
a beautiful
small
way
steps,
of looking at it.
baby steps, whatever each person can do. Plant a tree, help an orphan, save a stray animal, adopt a stray animal. Or there's so many small things that we can do. Save on electricity, cut down on your power usage, cut down on the fuel usage, use public transport. They sound very cliche, when you say it, but they are practical steps that we can do to help our environment.